Alright, so this is the signal, right? So let me start with the list of attendants. Belona, Rita, Bernard, Zoe, Daniel, Gerard, Cassiel, Bob, Decour, Irene, Damon, Phyllis, okay, Sue, Evelyn, Estelle, Anita, Ezreal, Sophia, Nick, Sun, Ruby, Amy, Sonia, Yasu, Geneva, Vivian, Cindy, Wade, Abel, Rio, Danny, Mitch, Carla, Agnes, Penny, Anna. Well, if you notice here, this is the correction of your last homework, right? Most people got 1, but there are some people here who got 0.5. And this is why, let me explain why. I asked you to answer 2 questions. Those people only answer 1. This is the reason you got half. Okay? Pay attention. I asked you to answer 2 questions, whatever question that is. So if you wanted to see your paper, I bring it here, so the break time you can come and see it. But this is the reason you got half, because you only answer 1 question. You chose 1 to answer 1. So what is the other half? I asked you 2 questions, okay? And there's 1 person here who actually did not deliver in the paper that I asked. So you might say, well, why did I answer my question, 2 questions? Why do you care so much about the paper? I'm caring about the paper because it shows your organization, right? Probably this person forgets the paper, he might be doing their homework in class or whatever, and he delivered in the wrong paper. So it calls for lack of organization, lack of preparedness. So this is why. So I hope you see your grades here, okay? Any questions? Before I start, I wanted to ask Wade to raise and give how was your experience last Wednesday in the English corner? Tell me, how was it? Is it good, bad? Raise and tell your question. Just a few words. Just say how was your experience in the last Wednesday in the English corner.
I feel it
Tell to them. Turn to them and talk to them.
I think it is good because a lot of people here talk with us, talk with teacher, and the teacher said a lot of interesting things like his life or his experience in how to learn English and so on, and at the same time.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't know what to say.
Okay, thank you. I just want to ask him to say something because, for example, I'm not grading you for going to English corner, but I know that some of you are shy to speak up in class because you feel your English is not good enough. So you need to relax when you're speaking English. You need not to be nervous. You need actually to see this is a tool for you to communicate better, to interact with other people, to make friends in the other side of the world, like me, right? So I start making good friends from other places because I can speak English. Just because I'm not nervous to go with someone and say hi and see if they can speak English or not. For example, today we're going to have an English corner today. This is not a mandatory thing that you can go to, right? I'm just saying this is a good opportunity to you find good people, students like you who wants to improve their English. You don't have to go there and talk to me, right? Go there and talk to your fellow Chinese students. Make some friends. So this guy went there last Wednesday. He talked to me for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, right? And then he went on his way. He was making good friends over there. Just be that person. And I have a special invitation for you. So I got together with the English Association and I planning to do one activity with them. So it's going to be in April 16th. It's going to be Friday from 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. We're going to be talking about dating. So we create a group in the WeChat. So if you go to my WeChat and saw my last post, you're going to see the invitation. You can scan the QR code and become part of the group. So we are already chatting the group. Like for example, I'm posting things about dating, people are discussing, and on that day we're going to get together and discuss a lot about those things. This is going to be fun. I have done this once in Jiujiang. We have maybe 70 students. All of them share their thoughts. We express how do we feel about this, how do we feel about that. So we learn from each other's perspectives, different cultures. So it was fun, and it was very entertaining, and also we learn a lot. So we get to make good friends, and also by the same token, we get to practice our English, which is really nice. So I hope that you actually join and participate. It's not mandatory, of course. If you don't want to, this is on you. You don't have to go. I'm just inviting you to. We already have 40, 50 people in the group. So we are talking already. It's a good group, okay? Any questions? So today I already sent you the PPT file. So even though if I did not finish this class today, so you have to finish on your own. Finish reading the book or the chapter or the PPT, and you still have to do the homework for next class, okay? I hope to finish today, but if I did not, let's say if I finished, missed just few slides by the end, you still have to do the homework for the next class, alright? So we stopped here in the previous class, last class, in the slide 15. So we are talking about where the money starts. Money starts from here in New York. A needs to pay B, B needs to pay C, and C needs to pay D. Instead of moving the money around, they only issue a draft, right? So B issue a draft asking A to pay C, and C is going to endorse the draft to pay D. So the money does not need to be going around, just the document. And then the money is going to be transferred from A to D, right? So you see, New York to New York, it does not need to go to Europe. So it's less complicated and more secure. So now let's see the technicalities of this transaction, okay? So we're going to be putting the names of those different people in this transaction, okay? So what is the drawer? Drawer refers to the party that issues the delivery of the draft. So this is the drawer. This is the guy who's issuing the draft, right? It usually has some economic relationship with both the payee and the addressee. So he has a relationship with A and C, somebody who's paying and for somebody who's delivering the merchandise. That is why it asks the addressee who owes it some money to pay the payee, to whom it owns some money. So this guy maybe owes money to B, and B owes money to C. So B asks A to pay C, right? So here is a little bit of the better picture, right? So B asks A to pay C. So A, the drawee, also a creditor. C is the payee, also a debtor. So the main liability of the drawer is to make sure the draft can be accepted or paid. So there will be some rules about issuing the draft. If you don't follow the rules, it means someone can refuse to pay. Once the draft is dishonored, the drawer must effect the payment. In opening case, the drawer is B. Afterwards, the draft is transferred, but the drawer remains the same, is always B. To the drawee, the drawer is a creditor here, and the payee is the drawer is a debtor. So what is the addressee? Addressee is always number A. He is the party who receives the paying order. So he's the one who needs to pay. He calls also addressee. And he becomes the acceptor. So when he accepts the draft, he's saying, well, I accept to pay this bill. When he becomes the acceptor, he accepts the draft and signs on the draft. So when he signs on the draft, he's saying, okay, I agree with this term here, I'm going to do the payment as the draft says. He signs to a specific agreement to execute the unconditional order the drawee gives. He pays the final holder on the draft and gets back the draft as sign of his performance of liability. So this is the agreement between those two people. Who is the payee? It's the party who receives the money indicated on the face of the draft. So when you issue a draft, you say, well, you have to pay this person. So in this case here, B is asking A to pay C. So he is the payee. He's a creditor to the drawer. But when he actually sign up or endorse the payee to D, he becomes a debtor, and D becomes an endorsee because he endorses, C endorses to pay D, right? So payee can be paid upon the presentation of the draft or he can transfer it to others. In opening case, C is the payee. The basic pair is to a draft includes the other party. So drawer, address C, and the payee. To the drawer, payee is the creditor. If the payee endorses the draft to another party, in this case D, payee becomes an endorser who is a debtor to the endorsee. Maybe it's a little bit confusing. You can get back home and study and see, right? So you can understand and terms. So now let's talk about the endorser or endorsee. Endorser means the party that signed his name on the reverse side of the instrument and transferred the ownership to his right to another party. So you receive the money, let's say a check or the draft here. So you put it in the reverse, signing and give to somebody else. So you are endorsing the document to another party. The party who signs his name to transfer, normally the payee or the holder is acting as an endorser, while the person to whom the instrument is transferred is called the endorsee. So this guy here endorses, right, receives from the payment from the A, B asks the A pay C, right, he endorses and gives to D. So he becomes a debtor to the payee or endorsee. To the endorsee, right, all other parties on the draft before him are called prior parties. So for example, this guy here is endorsing, right? All of them before him are the prior parties. So A, B, and C are prior. Prior parties, and to an endorser, all the endorsees after him are called subsequent parties. For example, he maybe accept the money and go to the bank and cash the money. But maybe he also can keep doing, endorsing to someone else. Right? So all the people who are after him are subsequent parties. Okay? C is the endorser and D is the endorsee. To the drawer of a draft, endorsee is a creditor. To the endorsee, endorser is a debtor. If an endorsee transfers the draft again, he becomes another endorser. His subsequent party becomes endorsee. To the endorser, the endorsee is a creditor. To the endorsee, subsequent party, endorsee is a debtor. For example, every time this person endorses to someone else, these become the endorsee. Now, he becomes the endorser, and the subsequent becomes the endorsee. So this process can go a long way until somebody goes to the bank and cash the money. Okay? So who is now the guarantor? Guarantor does not belong to the basic party to a draft. It refers to the party who guarantees the actions of the drawer, endorser, acceptor, and acceptor of honor. It's somebody who's actually making sure this is going to work, right? So money is not going to be lost in the way, the document's going to be valid, so it's guaranteed the transaction. Guarantor bears the same liability as the warranty. Typically, guarantor is not a party already liable to the instrument, and the party guarantee can be any obligor to the instrument. There is no guarantor in the opening case. Okay, let me just say something about the guarantor. For example, like when you have an insurance, right? So if something goes wrong, the insurance is going to pay for it. So insurance is guaranteeing that everything is going to go right. Everyone is going to be paid. So this is the guarantor. Someone who holds the liability if there's something goes wrong, he's going to pay for it, right? So when you're, for example, going to buy a home, you're going to ask the bank, I want to borrow money to buy a home. So the bank is more likely to borrow the money if you're also going to buy insurance. What happens, for example, if the home burns? Get on fire and burns. So you don't have the home, and if you don't pay the bank cannot retrieve the home anymore. So everyone's going to lose money. But if you have the insurance, it means if the home burns, the insurance is going to pay. So the bank is not going to lose its money. So it is more likely to do the transaction with you because you're buying insurance. So when you have a guarantor, it's easier to do business with you because you have someone guaranteeing that the payment is going to be done. Okay, next one is the acceptor. Is the party that accepts the draft, makes acceptance on the face of the draft and promises to pay at maturity date. Acceptance means the acceptors agree that paying order from the drawer. So for example, in this case here, B is the drawer. He's kind of issued the draft saying, well, I'm going to ask Bob to pay wave. So I give the draft to the Bob. And Bob reads the draft, okay, I agree with this and I sign up. So it means that he accepts. So now he is liable because he accepts and he's going to agree with the terms. So acceptor is the principal debtor of the draft. So the money is going to come from Bob. He's the acceptor. And the money goes to Wade, right? But I am the one who issued the draft. So acceptor is the principal debtor of the draft. The holder, the endorsee, and the drawer can claim the payment from the acceptor. Before a bill has been accepted, the drawer is primarily liable for the bill. Once a bill has been accepted, the acceptor becomes the party primarily liable for the bill. So he's the guy who is paying, right? The drawer is the secondary liable. So I am the secondary for the bill in an opening case. And A is the acceptor. An acceptor is usually the payer, and an acceptor also is a debtor. Okay. Next one, holder. Holder is the payee or endorsee or the bearer. These are the names or terms that you can refer to this person. It is the party that is holding the draft at present. It is the party who holds the draft and asks the addressee to pay. In the previous case, in narrow sense of holder, D is the holder, the only holder, in a broad sense of holder. To both C and D are holders. Holders includes holder for value and holder in due course. For example, in the example I gave you here, I'm issuing the draft for Bob to pay Wade. So Wade is the holder because he's going to be receiving the money. If Wade endorsed the money to, what's her name again? What's her name? So if the Wade endorses the money to Bernard, now Bernard is also the holder because the money is coming to him. So if Bernard actually endorsed the money to Evelyn now becomes the holder. Okay? So value consideration means something that supports transactions, such as money, service, goods, and etc. So you can exchange money for anything here. You maybe exporting a merchandise, maybe you're providing a service, maybe you're delivering something digital, so it does not need any shipment. So a holder for value is a person who possesses an instrument for each value has been given by himself or by some other person prior to him. In other words, once value is given for a bill, the holder giving value, and all subsequent holders are holders for value. So why the holder is paying, right? Because he is receiving something. So this is the transaction. He's giving money because he is receiving some, whatever that is. Could be a service, could be goods, could be a product, whatever. A holder in due course refers to an individual who acquires a negotiable instrument in good faith, according to the deal of exchange, and this is now comes to the rules, right? This is Act of 1882. Holder is in due course should meet the following requirements. For example, now Wade is having the draft, right? He's a holder. It does not mean that we receive the money yet. Because when I issue a draft, I say, well, the draft is paid on the last day of April. So what day is today? 31 of March. So he did not receive the money yet. He's not entitled to the money until April 30. So he waits to the April 30 to receive the money. So let's see what are the requirements for him to receive the money. So there's a lot of things that needs to be checked before he receives the money. So here are some requirements. The endorsement of his private party is authentic. Maybe he's the first one. Issued the draft to him. But if he endorses to maybe Evelyn or Bernard, so those two guys will receive the next, right, from the endorser. So they need to check if his signature is authentic. Otherwise, he's not going to receive the payment. So what else? Draft is complete and regular on its face. If something missing information on the draft, he might not receive the payment. Draft isn't expired upon receiving. For example, maybe the date of the draft is 30th of April, but maybe 6 months later the draft is going to expire. So if he endorses the draft for him 1 year later, maybe the draft is already expired, so he's not entitled to receive the money anymore. So you need to check those dates. For example, if you receive a draft without a date, how can you know, right? So it's important to have those informations as well. So the holder is unaware of the dishonor of the draft. The holder is unaware of the defect of his prior party. The holder has paid value and gets the draft in good faith. So these are the requirements. A holder for value may or may not be a holder in due course, but a holder in due course must be a holder for value. Okay, different topic. What is the draw or issue of this document? So this is the action of issuing a draft, signing and delivering. So this is me making the draft, signing and delivering. To whom I need to deliver? I need to deliver to Bob, right? He needs to sign and accept. So according to UK Bills of Exchange in 1882, issue means the first delivery of a bill or note, complete in its form to a person who takes as a holder. Issue contains two actions. One is to draw and sign the draft, and another one is to deliver the draft to the payee. So I need to make the document, sign it, and then deliver to the person who is going to accept it, right? As he accepted, so now I deliver to Wade, because he's the one who's be holding the document until he receives the payment. When issuing a bill, the drawer must firstly draw the bill completely and correctly and sign the bill as well. This is very important, right? If there is missing information, how can you know the document is expired? How do you know when the maturity date, when the payment is due? So it needs to be complete. Also, we must deliver the draft to the payee. Only drawing the bill without a signature or with a false signature does not constitute action of issue. Signature can only be made by natural person. Otherwise, the signature must be attached by the wording of a principal-agent relationship. A bill so may engage the drawer on the primary liability to the bill. The principal who is responsible for signing as per the negotiable instrument laws. A bill so may engages the person, company, or some other person under its authority to take the responsibility for the payment or of the bill. For example, I can sign a check, my personal check, it goes my signature. But there are people who are representing companies, right? They sign in behalf of the company. So you always need to be sure that this person is already authorized for signing for this company. If you just sign something, it does not mean anything. And now this is becoming more easier or maybe more complicated. Because, for example, today we're dealing with a digital signing, right? So you cannot do this in person. So here the state will say that only a natural person, right? But for example, I was solving some issues in Brazil because I was kind of resigning from the company. So I'm going to receive a little bit more money, so I don't have my job back in Brazil as I was telling you before, right? So I need to sign up, but I was not there. How can I sign up? So we went to a website who is authorized for me to sign digitally. So it's made easier, so I don't have to go back to Brazil to sign up, right? So these are also becoming part in our environment because technology is helping us to make transaction business easier. So I didn't have to travel back to Brazil to sign this document. Delivery means transferring the bill possessions from one person to another. And today's world, we can do this by electronically, right? So people receive emails. For example, there are a lot of companies in this world today. The email is very important. For example, let's say I'm going to complain about something in human resources. So instead of just verbally talking to them, they might ask, well, can you write me something? Can you send an email? Because, why they ask you to do this? Because now there is a register of something. So you can print the email, everyone can have the email. When the drawer has drawn and signed a bill, and then delivered the bill, can the legal acts of issue be finished? Besides other legal acts such as endorsement and acceptance without delivery will all be then invalid. For example, if Wade endorses the bill to Evelyn, but he did not deliver the bill to Evelyn, so it then invalid. So he needs to endorse and deliver it. Delivery can be classified into actual delivery and constructive delivery. Actual delivery means the physical handover of a bill, while constructor delivery is a non-physical handover act. For example, if it's a check, a paper, he needs to go and deliver to her. Or it's non-physical, maybe it's an email, maybe it's a WeChat something, right? Which shows the immediate intention to deliver. For example, when a bill is issued and being delivered through post, this can be taken as the delivery of the bill. Another example is when advice is accepted and sent by the acceptor to the payee, this can be considered as delivery of the acceptance. For example, I bought something here online, right, and then delivered here to the post office. So when I go there to pick up the package, they ask me to do what? Sign something, right? They take a picture of the package. That this guy already came here to pick up his package. So this is an evidence that you might need it if something goes wrong. So if I need to complain about this product, if I say, well, you didn't arrive, you didn't pick up the package. So the guy who's sending me the package, no, you pick up the package, you sign up there, there's a picture of you doing it, so this is avoids problem. So when we don't have those things, the process becomes invalid. Right? So you need to understand this, so it's important to do all the process. Issue is the principal act of the instrument. So before somebody issues anything, so it doesn't start. Well, this is the starting part. And other acts are the foundation of the issue are called subordinate acts. So before somebody issued a document, nothing happens. This is the primary action. All the others that comes after are subordinate acts. After the draft is drawn and delivered to the payee, it becomes irrevocable, and the liability of the bill is the meantime established. The payee becomes the creditor to the bill, obtaining the rights of payment, requires transfer rights, the right of recourse. The drawer becomes the primary debitor of the bill. If dishonored by the non-acceptance or non-payment, the holder has the right of recourse against the drawer of thereof. So when somebody makes the document and he accepts, sign it, it becomes irrevocable. So and then everything can happen after this, right? So he might give to someone can endorse it. So, but now no one can say, well, I wish I wouldn't do it. Can I cancel it? No, we already signed it. It's irrevocable. Okay? Think about something. Why this is important? Let's say I buy something, right? For me to buy something, maybe I have to go to a different city to pick up a package. Maybe I spend time, right? I put some efforts, I put some investment on it. And now the guy canceled. So I lose all my timing, I lose all my travel to pick up the document. So when somebody signs up, it means it's irrevocable. It gives you the guarantee that this is going to happen. So you can put some effort to make it happen, effort in spending your time doing something because of this transaction. This is important, right? Endorsement is the signing of the back of the draft, transferring the ownership and delivering to the endorsee. We already talked about this, but let's get some more details in. Only when a payee is a demonstrated order, the act of endorsement will come into being. If the payee is a restricted order, the draft can be endorsed. If the draft is a bare order the draft need not to be endorsed. A signature without words of explanation can also be considered as endorsement. The holder also, as a payee and endorsee, has the right to endorse the draft. Endorsement contains two actions: the endorsee of the back of the draft and deliver to the endorsee. As you can see, there are some rules, right? So not all drafts are endorsed. The same goes for the checks, right? For example, remember, I told you this before. Here's the check, right? So the check is for Wade. He can turn the check and sign on the back. He can endorse to someone else. But if I do this on the check, what does it mean? Remember? It's only good now for cashing the bank, and he cannot endorse anymore. So the same goes for the draft, right? There are some drafts that are not endorsable. You can only receive the payment, but you cannot give to someone else. So all the documents have its rules, right? There are three main different kinds of endorsements. So let's see who they are. Special endorsement. It refers to the kind of endorsement specifying pay to the order of. It includes both the endorser and the endorsee's name. For example, C is the endorser, D is the endorsee. Special endorsement should be written as pay D or order for C. So this specific, right? Pay this person is endorsing to the other person. Blank endorsement. It also called endorsement in blank. It refers to the endorsement that only includes the endorser's name without the name of the endorsee. The first one, maybe Wade is endorsing to Evelyn, so it's a specified Evelyn. But now Wade is just signing the back. Whoever holds the document can receive the cash, not only Evelyn. The first one, only Evelyn can go and receive the payment because he endorses to Evelyn. Now he endorses to no one, it's a blank. Everyone who holds the document can cash the money. Let's see the last one, restricted endorsement. The endorsing is specified to pay to only, pay to no negotiable, pay to not transferable, pay to not to order. For example, maybe he's endorsing to Evelyn. Evelyn now can endorse again and endorse and give to her. What's her name again? Irene? How to say? Say it again. I'm sorry, I'm really bad with names, okay? But let's say Evelyn endorsed to her, right? So, and her can endorse to someone else. But if the document says something like this, no negotiable to Evelyn, so she cannot endorse anymore. It stops on her, right? Because now this is a restricted endorsement. So there are three types. You can specify the person, and also you can restrict the person, or you can endorse in blank. Everyone can cash the money. All right. Now let's talk about the presentation of the document. The action of presenting the draft to the payer for the acceptance of payment is called presentation. There are two types of presentation. Presentation for acceptance and the presentation for payment. So let's see the first one here. When the draft is a timed draft before the date of maturity, the holder presents the draft to the addressee for acceptance. The addressee signs his name on the back, on the draft, promise to pay on due date. It's a presentation for acceptance. So I issue the document and give it to Bob. Now Bob signs the document because I presented the document to him. He accepts, right? So this is the acceptance presentation. So what it is, the draft is a demand draft or a time draft. Upon the maturity date of the holder, present the draft to the addressee for money is the presentation for payment. So I start the document, he accepts, I present to him, right? Now I give the document to the waiter, right? Because I issued the draft for Bob to pay with. Now he's ready for the maturity. He cannot go in cash until the last day of April, right? So he's holding the document. When he gets to the maturity date, now he can go and cash the document, right? And this is the presentation for payment. Presentation for acceptance or payment must be made within a specific period of time. So if you can go in the rules, right? We'll talk about those in the Exchange Act in 1882 or Geneva Convention. So you need to respect those dates. If you wait too longer, the document might expire, become not valid. So you lose the payment, right? So presentation for payment, demand drafts, and presentation for acceptance of time. Draft must be made within reasonable period of time. Presentation for acceptance of time. Draft must be made upon maturity date of the draft. And also the Geneva says something about also the presentation time. You need to respect the timing. So now let's talk about acceptance. Acceptance is an action by which the payer promises to effect the payment at the maturity date of the draft. The payer has no responsibility until it accepts the bill in such a way as to signify acceptance of liability to pay the money stated in the bill. So let's say I produce the draft here and now I'm going to give to Bob, right? For him to accept. So just because I produce the draft does not mean anything until he signs it. So when he signs it, this is when he's binded by this document, right? So before the acceptance is done, the document is not worth anything. So a draft can be accepted in several ways. So how can Bob accept the draft? A general acceptance. It means the acceptor signs on the face of the draft, accepting the drawer's order without restrictive statement. For example, I just give the draft to him and he signs it, right? Accept on March 5, 2013 for A company London sign. So he sees what's the information, he sees, well, I need to pay this in the last day of April, he agrees it, and then he signs it. Or maybe it could be a qualified acceptance. It means the acceptor signs on the face of the draft using specific wording to change the effect after acceptance. So he might add something. I accept, but 30th of April is not good for me. I need one more month. I accept to pay in not April, but in May. Right? He's putting some more information, more wording on the document. Right? So qualified acceptance, he's kind of changing the document a little bit. Maybe putting more time, or maybe changing the amount of money. Okay, I accept, but this is too much. I'm just going to pay half of it. Something like this. And the last one here is the conditional acceptance. It means the payment depends on the completion of the conditions. For example, accept on April 15, 2013, payable on delivery of bill of lading for a company Tokyo site. So he only going to pay when they deliver the shipment. So if something goes wrong with the shipment does not arrive in the destination, he is not going to pay. So this is a condition to the delivery, right? So this is all, sorry. This is the qualified acceptance. The qualified acceptance has all these three differences, right? The first one is A. B is a partial acceptance. It means the acceptor is only responsible for part of the payment. For example, accepted July 18, 2013, payable of the amount of 10,000 only for a company new order signed. So maybe two people are paying for this. It's only partial payment, right? Local acceptance. It means the payment will be only made at a particular place required by the acceptor. For example, payable at the Hamburg Bank, and there's only for ABC Bank. So you only can get the money in this bank. So it's a local acceptance. D. Qualified acceptance as to time. It means that the date of the payment can be altered in comparison with the tenor stated in the original draft. It could be deferred. For example, accept January 19, 2013, payable 6 months after the date of the delivery. So it's a condition of the delivery date. So if the delivery happens today, 30 days after. If the delivery happens maybe next month, it's still going to be 30 days after the delivery date. Right? So we have all these variations of the acceptance here. This is all under qualified acceptance. So general acceptance, qualified acceptance has these variations, and now, okay, those two kinds of acceptance. And now the payment. Payment of a bill is generally affected by the addressee or acceptor. Payment date of site draft is present in date, or payment date of time draft is specified date after X days. After site is calculated from the accepting date. The holder presents the draft maturity date after payment is in due course is made by the payer or acceptor. The liability of the draft thus be discharged. For example, when you go to a bank and you present a check, they need to pay right away. This is the first one. Site. When you see the request of the document, you have to pay. And the type draft is when you have the specification. So this is 30 days after delivery. So you can present, but you will not get the payment until 30 days after. So this is the time draft. This is two kinds of payment there. Only by payment in due course can the obligation of the bill be discharged. So they call payment in due course. It means that the payment is to be only made by the drawee or acceptor at or after maturity of the bill to the holder thereof in good faith or without notice that his title to his bill is defective. Payment in due course must satisfy 4 conditions. Without those conditions, the guy does not need to pay. The first is payment. All right, let's have our break. Does anyone wants to complain about the homework? Yeah, I brought it here if you wanted to see it. What you're doing here is very good. Highlighting, looking for more very better. So I think it's a lot of work. Really good. Today, I don't know because to me, you but for example, sometimes the shop is giving you an example, right? He's making the draft, being used to visualize the sections. But there's no way you can become good because this is a hard work. Once you become good, let me change the perspective, right? This can work. I don't know, maybe it will work, right? Let's see. I have recorded some other classes, that's good. Alright. Just leave it there. Good luck. Is that ready? This time? Right? Ready to finish, right? Can I continue? I didn't hear the sound. Okay, let's continue. Payment is in due course must satisfy those four conditions. The first one, payment is made by the payer or acceptor instead of the drawer or endorser. So it means that the payment is going to come from Bob, right? I make the draft. I'm the drawer, but I'm not going to be the one who's making it, right? So when he accepts the payment, he's liable. Now he's the one who's going to make the payment. So the first payment is made by the payer or acceptor. Second, payment is made on the after the maturity date of the draft, but is not before maturity date. So in our example, I made the draft to be paid the last day of April. So he is not liable to pay until that date arrives. So we cannot say, well, can we pay me in advance? No. The payment is done in 30th of April. It's here in the document, right? So you cannot ask for advance. Third, payment is made to the holder, and the endorsement must be consecutive and authentic. So I made the draft for Bob to pay waive. So the payment is supposed to be to waive, right? So if he wants to endorse to someone else, it is his problem. But he's only liable to pay him. If he decides, well, I want to endorse to Evelyn, endorse to someone else, that is his problem. And the last one is payment is made in good faith. So what does it mean? Payment is made in good faith. Remember, we have four people, right? B asking A to pay C and C endorsing to D, right? So there's transactions between four people. It means, for example, he's paying directly to him, but he's not talking to me, right? It's supposed for me to do my part on the transaction. Maybe he doesn't know, right? I didn't fulfill my part. So maybe I didn't deliver the chairs. Maybe he didn't, but he's paid because of the document. So he paid in good faith that he was believing that I did my part. So what is the dishonor? This is when something goes wrong, right? So he accepts to pay, but he does not pay. He dishonors the agreement. So what it is? The act of dishonor is the failure or refusal of acceptance of payment or a bill of exchange when presented. So we did this, right? I issued the draft, Bob signs, and I delivered to waive, right? Now we're just waiting for the maturity date. When the maturity date arrives, he's supposed to get the payment from Bob, but Bob does not pay. So he dishonored the agreement, right? So when a bill is duly presented for acceptance, but is not accepted within a reasonable time or specific time the person presenting it must treat as a dishonor by non-acceptance. Dishonor by non-acceptance happens in the user's draft. When a bill is duly presented for payment, but the payment is refused or cannot be obtained, the person presenting it must treat as a dishonor by non-payment. Dishonor by non-payment happens at incite, demand, draft, or in expired user's draft. So there's two types of dishonor, right? Maybe he waits for the maturity date, he goes to Bob, well, here's the document. And he presents it to him, and he's not paying, right? So this is the dishonor. So what now happened when something like this happened? Is he not going to receive the money anymore? What's going to happen? So remember, we have other parties, right? So remember the guarantor, like the insurance. Now we're going to get involved with the guarantor, right? Because he's not paying. So let's still talk about this. Relevant negotiable instrument laws prescribe that a bill is dishonored when one of the following events occur. So when can you consider this dishonor? So when those things happen, acceptance payment is refused, so you can consider dishonor. Acceptance payment cannot be obtained. It's not he, okay? Be obtained where the drawing cannot be found or where his delivery avoids the presentment. Maybe you have seen this in movies, right? So somebody wants to find him to present the draft, but he goes to his home, he's not there. Maybe he's all telling me that I'm not here, right? He's kind of running away. So he cannot be found. The drawee is dead. Maybe he died. How can he pay now, right? He died, or maybe he bankrupt. His company failed. Now he's lost his money, his company, how can he pay, right? Or a fictitious person or a person who's not having the capacity is involved in the bill. So these are all reasons for dishonor. As soon as the bill is dishonored by non-acceptance, the holder's rights of recourse against prior parties arises immediately without his having to present for payment later. Similarly, when a bill is dishonored by non-payment, as an immediate right of recourse against the drawer and endorsers accrues to the holder. When exercising the right of recourse, the holder must deal with a protest and a notice of dishonor based on the relative law. For example, now the payment is dishonored. Now he can get to a recourse. Now he can go and ask for the government, the institutional party, the guarantor to, well, this guy is not honoring the payment. Now I wanted to protest him. Now I wanted to take legal actions to receive my payment. Right? But for example, he needs to have an evidence that this payment is dishonored, right? Notice of dishonor is a notice made by the holder to inform all his prior parties about the dishonor. There are two methods of informing the notice of dishonor. One method is the holder to inform the dishonor to his prior endorser. The second one, suppose it's A, right? Within one business day of dishonor, and A informs his prior endorser until the drawer gets to the notice of dishonor. Another method is the holders inform the fact of dishonor to all his prior parties. Remember, we have A, B, C, D, right? So A, B, C, D, and money goes in this direction, right? So this guy here gets no money. He can inform the prior parties. This is the prior parties. The purpose of giving such a notice is to inform the drawer. So this is the drawer, leave the drawer right in our example, and all the prior endorsers who remain liable on the bill, the default by the drawee and the acceptor, so that they should get ready to honor the payment. For example, let me say, we here have 4 people, right? But it can be longer than that. For example, A, B, C, D, right? So B is me. I ask the Bob here to pay C, who is the Wave. Wave may be endorsed to Evelyn. Evelyn may be endorsed to, I don't know, Bernard. B, C, D, E. Bernard may be endorsed to Anita, right? So all this before maturity date. So in 1 month, a lot of people can make an endorsement. So all those people are dependent only on this one document. So when these people here get no payment, right? So he has to inform all the prior parties. Somebody has to, well, solve the problem. This is all they need to notify them. Notice of dishonor is very important when the legal act is under the Deal of Exchange Act of 1882. According to its regulation, if the dishonor is not given, the holder will lose the right of recourse against the drawer and all the prior endorsers. So when this person here, the last one, who is going to receive the money, did not give notice of the dishonor, he what? He will lose the right. So this is an important step, right? He needs to, well, so for example, the document is here, now he goes to the bank, and the bank said, well, Bob did not put the money here, so I cannot pay you, right? So now he needs to tell everyone else here. He needs to give notice, otherwise he will lose the right. So he gives the notice, and now he starts the legal procedure maybe to protest Bobby, maybe to do something that we're going to be talking about to receive the money. But he needs to actually notice everyone, well, the money did not arrive here in my end, and this is the legal, the right way of doing it. Protest is a certificate under seal, draw up, and signed by the notary public. This is a legal or court or banking association in order to authorize a person in the dishonored place for the purpose to give evidence that a bill of exchange has been presented by him for acceptance or payment, but dishonored. I don't know how this works here in China, but for example, there are people who have the legal authority to say that something happened. For example, when I came here to China, I need to present my certificate of criminal, antecedents criminal, right? But for to be accepted here in China, I also need to go to the Brazilian consulate in Beijing, and they need to say, now this is true. It was issued in Brazil in a good faith, right? So the same thing is happening here, right? So when let's say when we go to the bank and present the document that they did not receive the payment, he needs someone to certify him that he actually took action and did not receive the payment. Like, well, this guy came here, this is a stamp, right? He came here on the 30th of April, and he did not receive the payment. And he uses that document to notify the priors people that he did not receive the payment. And now that he has the evidence, he can go and protest, take legal action against Bob. The holder will him, right? He received no payment. The holder will hand the bill to a notary public who will again present the draft to the drawer or acceptor. Now he's handling the document to the notary public. And he's going to ask, well, I saw that he came to you and you didn't pay him. So what happened? Now he's not going to negotiate with Wave anymore. He's negotiating to the notary public. So he's going to not negotiate. The other person is going to try to get the money. So the purpose of doing this is to get the legal proof of dishonor. When the acceptance of payment is still unobtainable, the notary public draws an official certificate protest. So I came to Bob and said, well, is it true that you pay him? So he's saying that you did not pay him. And then maybe now he gets to the explanation. Yes, I have some financial problems, I couldn't pay right now, but I will pay next month, or I'll pay 1 week, whatever it is, right? But now it's becoming an official certificate, right? Evidencing the demands made on the drawer acceptor and the responses received from them. If possible, the reason for dishonor will be stated on the certificate. So I put in a certificate, yes, Bob did not pay Wave because he's having a financial problem, whatever. On the reverse of the certificate, a copy of the dishonor bill will be attached. The protest will be returned to the holder, who can exercise his right of recourse to all his prior parties. So I get him, talk to him, put in the certificate, explain how he did not pay because he's having a financial problem. And now this is the evidence, the document, right? The draft that he did not pay is already in writing, and then I give it to him. And then he said that he's having a problem, he can pay next week. Maybe he decided to wait for 1 more week. Or maybe, no, I have the right to receive last week, so I'm going to process it. I'm going to put him in jail, whatever. Now he can decide. He has the documentation that Bob did not pay. But now he has to make a decision, right? Is he going to accept the new offer, receive 1 week from now? Or he's going to process Bob, right? So now let's talk about the right of the recourse. So now Wade has the right to go against Bob, right? To process Bob, right, whatever. So he has the right, because he has all the evidence, he did not receive the money. So recourse refers to the act of the holder, in this case Wade, to demand payment from the drawer, which in this case is Bob, and endorser. For example, if he endorses to Evelyn, now Evelyn is gonna not receiving the money, so she can actually process Wade and process Bob, right? The holder may execute his right of recourse only when he has completed the following procedures. So the following procedures are to present the draft to the payer for acceptance or payment and is dishonored by non-acceptance or non-payment. So for example, she cannot or he cannot do this process here before completing the acceptance. He cannot process Bob without coming here first and well, it's the time for payment. Bob needs to say no. He cannot process Bob before this, before the dishonoring. To give notice of dishonor to its prior party in 1 business day after the day of dishonor. He cannot process also to present a protest for non-acceptance, non-payment in 1 business day after the day of dishonor. So he has the right, but he has the right time to do it. Now let's talk about the guarantee and avalization. The act of guarantee is performed by a relative party called guarantor. Remember, there's somebody outside of the transaction who is guaranteeing this whole thing, right? Act of guarantee is performed by a relative party called guarantor who is engaged that the bill will be paid on presentment if it is a side bill, or accept on presentment if it is a user's bill. Remember, there's 2 types of documents. Who one that can present, receive the payment, or who one can wait for the dates. The guarantor will also guarantee the payment on presentment is accepted if it is accepted user's bill. The guarantor stands surely for the debtor, such as a dryer, endorser, or acceptor, and assumes his indebtedness to the holder. The guarantor is called a vow. Example to the legal acts of guarantee is shown as follows. Permanent aval payment, guarantee, give for guarantee, signed by guarantor, date of the date, signature. For example, if the Bob is actually not paying at all, because he's bankrupt, he's dead, right? Now the responsibility comes for the guarantor. The guy who signs it, saying, well, I guarantee this transaction if something goes wrong, right? Remember, there might be several reasons why Bob's not paying. Maybe he's broke, maybe he's died, something happened. Now, goes for the guarantor. Now let's see about the types of the bill of exchange. Commercial type, trader bill of exchange. According to the drawer, the payer of the draft, it can be classified as a commercial, trader's bill, and banker's bill. If the drawer and payer are both companies or entities, it's a commercial trade bill. Based on commercial credit, if the drawers and payers are both banks, it's a banker's bill. This is just technicalities, right? So maybe, for example, I am a company, right? So this is a commercial bill. Maybe somebody who's the draft is presented by a bank, it's a banker bill. So documentary bill and clean bill. According to whether the bill is accompanied with the shipment documents, bill can be classified into documentary and clean bill. If the bill is attached by shipping documents, it's a documentary bill. If the bill is not attached by shipping documents, it's a clean bill. For example, if the issue, this is the draw, right, for make the payment, is because of the shipment of merchandise, it's a documentary. But if it's not related to any shipment, any merchandise, it's a clean bill. It's just because, well, I said that I will give you money for him. It's a donation. Maybe it's whatever it is. It's not related to any shipment or trading or merchandise. Now this is a clean bill. Under site demand bill, the payer needs to effect the payment under presentation. under time uses bill, then the payer needs to effect the payment at a determined future date. So remember, there's two types of payment, right? One of them is when the guy is presenting the document. For example, maturity date is 30th of April. It's an example. So after that date, the guy can go and present the document to receive the payment. So I don't need to pay until I receive the guy who's actually present me the document. The other one is the time bill. It doesn't matter if I go and present the document. When the times come, I need to make the payment. Right? So inland bill and foreign bill. Now we're talking about the different bills, right? According to the Bills of Exchange Act in 1882, a bill is drawn as a payable in the same place. The bill is deemed to be an inland bill. If a bill is drawn in one place but payable in another place, this bill is deemed to be a foreign bill. Remember, here was in Paris, right? The place, right? One place here, the same place. B is in the same place. So instead of money go to Europe, and then go to America, so the money stays in America, right? So this is going to be an inland bill because the money is being paid in the same place in America. But now, for example, let's say this guy is not in America, he's also in Europe. So the money is going from America through Europe. Now this is a foreign bill. The money is going to a different place. Alright, so we finish about this first part with the subject of an issue in drawing. And this is all those things are negotiable instruments, right? Now let's see the difference when you're talking about the promissory note. So what is the definition of the promissory note? So according to the Article 83 Bill of Exchange in 1882, a promissory note is an unconditional promise in writing made by one person to another, signed by the marker, engaging to pay on demand or at a fixed or determinable future time a sum certain in money to or to the order of a specific person or the bearer. So now there's some difference. We're learning about those different instruments. Maybe you can see, well, this is a better way of me doing it. This is why you need to understand the difference. So what is the essential items for the promissory note? Based on the bill of exchange, let me just read here the agreement. It can be concluded that the essential items of the promissory notes include promissory note wording, an unconditional promise to pay, name of the payee, signature of the marker, place and date of the issue, tenor is the date of the payment, a sum of a certain amount of money, place of payment, etc. So it has about the same kind of information the other ones they were discussing, right? The exchanging bill before. So what are the main types of promissory notes? Trader's note and banker's note. Remember, talk about the commercial one, about the bankers. So a trader's note, according to the marker of the note, it can be classified as a trader's and a banker's note. If it's a company or entity, it's a trader's note. If it is a banker, if it's a bank, then it's a banker's note. Trades not is based on the commercial credit, while banker's note is based on the banking credit. Site note or time note. Site note when you present. Time, when is the time due? You don't need to present, you need to pay on that time. Right? So site notes when the marker needs to effect the payment on presentation. So I need to go with the document, well, here's the document, you can pay me now. Right? The time document is the time is done to the payment, I don't need to go there, it needs to pay. International money order. A money order is a financial instrument issued by the bank allowing an individual name on the order to receive a specified amount of cash on demand. It's a type of banker's note. International money orders are often used by those who travel around the world but do not have checking accounts. So this is a way of me sending maybe money to Brazil without having a bank account. In this case I have, but for example, my first 3 months here in China, I didn't have a bank account. But if I want to send money to Brazil, I can use this kind of a money order. Go to an institution, give the money, well, you need the money to send to this person in Brazil, this is the address, whatever, and then make the money order. Central bank notes. This is all under the promissory notes, right? This is the option of promissory notes. It is prescribed in Western countries that central bankers are authorized to make bearer notes payable on demand with fixed amount of money. Since the marker is a central bank, it is also a type of a banker's note. So negotiable certificates of deposit. A certificate of deposit is a note issued by a commercial bank. Usually negotiable certificates of deposit are short terms. Interest-bearing certificates issued by banks and are popular among those who like low risk and straightforward investment. Certificate of deposit is a type of negotiable instrument, is processed by the nature of bank notes and time notes. What is the differences, right, between bills of exchange and promissory notes? So now you're going to use this. This is a very important, right? Because, for example, how is the best way of payment for you? You're going to decide it based on the difference, right? So the first one here, the promissory note is a promise to pay. Bill of exchange is an order to pay. Promissory note has two parts. So I give money, I send money from here to someone in Brazil. A bill of exchange is a three-part instrument, maybe even more, right? Remember here, 1, 2, 3, 4 parties, right? More parties. For example, if you only need to send money to someone, maybe promissory note's better. But if the transaction involves more than 2 people, maybe a bill of exchange is a better way of doing it. Never needs to be accepted. So when I send money to someone, the person does not need to accept it. I just send them the money, but the bill of exchange, he needs to sign it and accept it, right? 4, the maker is always the primary, the maker is always the party primarily liable for the payment. The bill of exchange, before acceptance, the drawer is primarily liable for the payment. But after acceptance, the acceptor becomes primarily liable for the payment. For example, I owe money to Wade, and Bob owes money to me. So we're going to make this transaction. This is why I wrote a draft asking Bob to pay Wade. So, but before Bob accepts, I'm still owe money to Wade, right? So this is what I'm saying here. Before acceptance, before Bob agrees to send money to Wade, I'm still the one who owes money to Wade. But when Bob agrees it, now he owes to Wade because he accepted the draft that I issued saying that he's going to pay Wade. 5, promissory notes has 1 copy. Bill of exchange can be drawn in a set. So I have my copy here, Bob has his copy, and Wade now has the draft, right? More copies. Promissory note, protest is never needed. Bill of exchange, foreign bills need protesting for dishonor. We talk about this one, right? Dishonor, to retain the liability of prior parties. So maybe depending on your situation, one method was going to be better than the other. So this is a very important slide. There's going to be some text on it with those differences. Okay? Now let's talk about the last part of this class. This is a very simple, just more few slides. So about checks. So what is the definition of a check? Check is also called check according to the Bill of Exchange Act in 1882. It's a bill of exchanging draw on the bankers payable on demand. It's an unconditional order in writing signed by the person giving it. It requires the bank to whom it's addressed to pay on demand a sum certain in money to or to the order of a specified person or to the bearer. So if I sign a check and give to Wade, right, he can go to the bank and cash it, the money. Or maybe he can give to Evelyn, and Evelyn can give to someone else, right? So this is what it means to the bearer, right? Bearer, what's the word here? Bearer is the person who's holding the check. So this person has the right to go to the bank and pick up the money, right? Or maybe I can do the check like this, in order of. I can make a payment in order to pay Evelyn. So Evelyn cannot give someone else the check anymore because it's for order to pay her, right? So before I put the name of Evelyn, she could give to anyone the check, and the person who's holding the check can go to the bank. But now I put her name, only good for her. If she wants to give to someone else, now she needs to endorse it. So before I put her name, she does not need to endorse. It's a blank check. Check of $1,000. Who holds the check can go to the bank and pick up $1,000. But now I put Evelyn's name. Now she cannot give to anyone without endorsing it. She needs to flip the check with the name of, I endorse this check to the next person. Right? According to the different stipulations in different negotiable laws, essential items of the checks include check. So there's a wording, right? So put a number here, and now I have to put it in a wording, right? You have to put the numbers and also wording and extents, right? Name, address of the main bank, name and signature of the drawer, date and the place of issue, specifying the tenor at a site, or if not, so indicating the deemed is deemed to be at site. A sum of certain in money, the name of the payee or denominated person, right? So these are the essential things. So let's go back here, right? So this is the numbers, and this is the wording. Maybe you can put here the name of the person, right? This is a donation. Maybe if I put the Evelyn's name here, it's for her, right? If I cross the check, it cannot be give to someone else. It's only good for deposit. So there are those rules about checks. So let's see some of those rules here. General crossing means no name of the collecting bank is specified in the check, and the check can be collected to any bank. It includes no name of the bank is indicated. The form of this type of crossing is as follows. This is the first one. The second one, put a banker, add a banker between the two parallels. The form of the type of this crossing is as follows. You cross the check and put a banker. Or maybe you add a company between the two parallels. The form of this type of crossing is as follows. This is an example. This is the type of crossing. Non-negotiable between the two parallels. If you write the non-negotiable, it means do not transfer the check. If the check is transferred, the right of transfer cannot exceed his prior party. The form of this type of crossing is as follows. You cross the check and write non-negotiable. Or you add account payee between the two parallels. It is instructions for the collecting banking required to collect only for the payee's account. The form of this type of crossing is as follows. You just do this, and now it's only good for this situation. Special crossing often contains the name of a bank, which means the fund can only be collected through the named bank. The form of special crossing is as follows. You put the name of the bank or the name of non-negotiable. Marker or crossing. The marker of crossing can be the drawer or payer or the holder. So when I issue the check, I already can do the crossing. But maybe I don't do the crossing. Maybe I give the check to Wade. But Wade now can cross the check. But if he doesn't, he can still pass the check to someone else. Maybe someone else can do the crossing. The crossing can be happen anytime. So it could be me, the issue, right? Drawer, could be the payer, or could be the holder. They want to cross the check anytime. A check may be crossed generally or specifically by a drawer when the first issue. So I can cross it. When the check is uncrossed, the holder may cross it. It generally or specifically, special. When the check is crossed, generally the holder may cross it specially. So anyone can cross anytime during the process of giving to someone else. All open check is the check without the two parallels on the face. It can be used for cash, withdrawal, or account transfer. Cross check is the check with two parallels on the face. It can be used only for account transfer. Open checks can be changed into cross checks, but cross checks cannot be changed into an open check. So when you issue a check, right? So there's a check, right? It's an open check. I can give to anyone. It's more free for me to do this, right? But for example, I issued a check in blank. I give to Wave. Wave can give to someone else. He can go to the bank and cash it. But once someone crosses the check, right? It means that only that now it's being good for cash in the bank or transfer. It cannot be transferred to anyone anymore. Right? For example, if I give you a blank check, anyone can cross it. But once someone crosses it, you cannot uncross it. This is what I'm saying here. Open check can change into a cross it by anyone. But a check that is crossed cannot be uncrossed. Okay? A certificate check is one that's certified by the drawing bank. Once a check is certified by the drawing bank, all other obligations on the check will be discharged from the liability of payment. Uncertified checks, the counter example of certified check. The other one here, checks payable to the bearer or checks payable to the order. When the payee of a check is the bearer, this type of check is called checks payable to the bearer. It can be transferred against delivery when the payee of a check is nominated person. It's a check payable to the order. So to the bearer, it means there's no name of a person here. It's a blank check. I can give to anyone. Whoever holds the check can go to the bank and pick up the money. But as soon as I wrote the name of this check is to pay $1,000 for a wave, he's the only one who can go and check the check. Right? I don't know for example, some laws here, but maybe there are places you can flip the check and endorse now. If it's the name of the person, you cannot cash this check if it was not this person. It's a blank check, anyone can cash. But if there's a name here, only that person. For someone else to cash, it now needs to endorse. A blank check needs no endorsement. Anyone can go and cash it. So when the drawer of the check is a banker or a banker's check, when the drawer of the check is a person, it's a personal check. So checks can be made for a personal, for somebody like me, or for a company. It could be a check of the company, right? So now let's see some of the differences between checks and bill of exchange. So checks, the drawee must be the bank and the drawer is the customer who opens the checking account with the drawee. Bill of exchange, no specific requirements. 2. Checks are payable on demand. Bill of exchange is demand or at the determined future date. 3. The drawer is primarily liable for the check. In the case of certified check, the certified banks become the principal obligor and all other parts are discharged of liability. In the case of the site bill or usance bill before acceptance, the drawer is the principal obligor. In the case of acceptance bill, the acceptor is the principal obligor. It's a payment instrument. In this case, it's both payment instrument and a credit instrument. Checks can be canceled before payment. And after acceptance, this is irrevocable. These are the difference between checks and bill of payment and bill of exchange. So this is the end. So we have here, I already sent you the 15, right? So we have 12 questions. You need to choose 2 questions, right? and answer whatever those two questions. Only one page, does not need to be an extensive answer. And now, in the next class, I want to invite you students to share the answers before I start the class. Do you have any questions about what we talked today? You received the 50 already, right?
Only two questions we need answer.
What?
Only two questions.
You need to answer only two. You choose from those 12. You choose between those 12 questions. You choose two of them and answer. Yes. Okay?
Why you write three? Why you write three?
Oh, okay.
Wrong time.
Yes, okay. There's only two, okay? Yeah, only two. That's only two, yeah. Yeah, disregard this, okay? It's wrong. Only two. I'm not going to change the rule. I don't know why I put it here there. Maybe it's a long time ago when I prepared this way. Only two, okay?
打电话给他。叫黄大哥。
还让你在他面前好看。我刚刚看过。
每个都有哎，说那种对颜色都有，我们没有，但是我们好像是8个名或者我现在家里面有，对我现在家里面我爸有一家，然后我们全家都可以用。交易员保险员公司每个人是有自己的，每个人在缴。我们不用，我们直接拿家里面人就可以。反正我两个是一样的，而且我爷爷因为以前我爷爷有残疾证，然后他们也医保赔偿也挺开的，一个人的呀。我们他们那边不一样，他们一个人全家用一个。然后对，然后我希望我们家是我妈的，我们4口人都要每个人都要对，每人都要一个，就交1本医疗本。我们也是。什么时间也不在，然后就你把我们今天啊，
看要不要去我知道。
我有什么话说？他自己挣的钱头干嘛？还问我钱？他们4个平台抵扣了我这边。
干嘛了？
就给你。